Leslie Gardner is teaching her Year 7 class how to use subordinate clauses. The starter activity is taught jointly by Leslie and the MTAG team leader, Tony Mitchellmore.
Right, we've been doing some work on complex sentencing 7A, and you had to write a story based on a Christmas carol using some of those complex sentences. So first of all, we're going to look at an example which is taken from one of your stories, and I want you to tell me what makes it a complex sentence. Exhausted from the run, Hassan slumped to the floor. What makes that a complex sentence? What does a complex sentence need to have in it? Hamed.
There's a subordinate clause and a main clause in this sentence, and the subordinate clause make this sentence interesting.
Thank you, Hamed. Very good answer. What is special about the main clause in a complex sentence? Aisha?
It makes sense on its own.
So it's a complete sentence, the main clause, thank you. Looking at this, who can point out the main clause? Junaid?
Hassan slumped to the floor. Hassan.
Good, that's the main clause. Hassan slumped to the floor is the main clause. And like Hamed said, the subordinate clause adds extra detail and a bit of interest. So we find out why was Hassan slumping on the floor? It was because he was exhausted from the run. So using your knowledge of sentences, how can we change this complex sentence around in how many different ways? Hassan?
We could embed the sentence.
How would you do that?
Hassan, exhausted from the run, slumped onto the floor.
Good. Would somebody like to make a comment on the punctuation in that sentence and tell me what has happened there? Tahira?
In the normal sentence, it's got only one comma, but in the embedded sentence, it's got two commas.
Excellent. And what does the comma do? What is it separating?
It's separating the subordinate clause and the main clauses.
Well done. Good. We inbuild progression into our starters by having a three-point plan. The first starter session, which will be an introduction of a rule or a convention in language. The second starter, which will be an investigation testing that convention. And then the third starter will be a consolidation, checking that the students now can use what they've acquired.
Pupils who are learning English as an additional language get particular benefits out of lesson starters. We have an opportunity to work with pupils one-on-one in the classroom and look at particular grammatical problems that they might be having at that time. We can look at word level work or sentence level work and particular areas that EAL pupils might have difficulties with, such as plurals and tenses and maybe references and pronouns. And we need to think about differentiation as well for EAL pupils and SEN pupils. That sometimes might require us to put in extra cards into a session or cut up the resources or make cards that they can use and move around on the table to make them more accessible. Sometimes we just need to make the sentences shorter. Sometimes we actually might need to make extra resources specifically for them.
In the next task, pupils change a sentence according to the grammatical instructions on a card.
So I've got all these little sentences we've got to figure out. Who wants to pick one?
Me.
Yep. Okay, you pick one. What did it say?
Change subject in main clause.
Change the subject in the main clause.
What was your last card, Hassan?
To write a completely new sentence.
So what did you come up with?
I came up with the spectre staring at me with mournful eyes, levitated 1 foot above the ground.
Good. So what have you done there?
I made a new sentence and embedded the clauses.
You added some nice bits of vocabulary as well. I like the mournful eyes. So what are you doing next time then?
Now I have to do change subject in main clause.
Spectre.
Spectre. Good. So what are you going to change it to?
Spirit. Phantom. Aberration.
Phantom.
Demonstration.
And what are you doing, Hamed?
After that, a completely new sentence.
And what are you starting with there?
Looking at me.
Which is?
A subordinate clause.
Good. So you're delaying the introduction of the subject in the sentence.
Yeah.
Very good.
In another lesson with sentence-level focus, the class are working on pronouns and how to avoid ambiguity.
If we look at these sentences, a man was waiting in the queue with his friend. He was a policeman. He wanted to buy some stamps. Where's the ambiguity in those sentences? Perhaps people can point out the ambiguous pronouns. Samaya?
He.
One he or both he's?
Both.
Okay, so that's causing the ambiguity. Why are those pronouns ambiguous? What do we need to find out? Hanufa?
He could be the friend or a policeman.
Although it could be the friend, or it could be
The man who was waiting in the queue.
the man who was waiting in the queue. Excellent. We don't know which one it is, do we?
In the next brief task, it's clear that pupils are focusing carefully on the pronouns.
Miss Mitchellmore loaned her keys to Aisha. Later in the day, their teacher could not find the keys and was cross with the student.
That's excellent, Hussein. I like the way you substituted the teacher for Miss Mitchellmore as a way of getting around the ambiguity. It's very good.
We've changed pronouns for names. Miss Mitchellmore loaned Aisha her keys. Later in the day, Aisha could not find them. Miss Mitchellmore was very upset.
That makes it very clear. I want to ask you a question now about what you've learned 7A. Now you have this knowledge about ambiguity, particularly in use of pronouns. How can you use that when you do your redrafting of your work, when you're proofreading your work and you're thinking about how to improve it? Tahira?
If you think some pronouns are ambiguous, you can circle and rewrite it again.
Very good. Thank you very much.